Hi, and welcome to the GMS Magazine podcast, the first podcast episode of 2025. This is a podcast all about board games, role-playing games, and the people who make them. Sometimes the people who play them too. I am Paco Garcia, one of your two hosts.
And this is Chris from DSS Machina, the other host.
Yes, because I have no other, just you.
Oh, that's special. I'm glad you're not cheating on me with other.
No,
podcasts.
not at the moment. This is the weirdest shape of monogamy that I can think of.
Well, I'm glad.
So anyway, how was Christmas for you and whatever you celebrate?
Christmas was good. It was the largest gathering of my extended family, which it doesn't say much. It's not a very big family in quite some time.
Mhm.
There were lots of gifts, lots of ordering, lots of food. I gained weight. I am back in the gym. I'm not even going to try to weigh myself until next month.
Me neither.
I'm in a very bad state. My mother had like 16 boxes of sweets and pastries that she made. I had some epic charcuteries. I had a 3.5 foot long charcuterie table I made for 12 people. We had homemade pizza. We had everything. I mean, we're still working off leftovers still.
Wow.
And then, of course, with those gatherings, there were some games we played. I lost my phone. Well, I didn't really lose it. I knew where it was. It just stopped working. I kind of went into a hot tub, which is a great thing for people who's like, wait, you go hot tub in the winter? Yes. One of the things people in Canada love doing, we love going into hot tubs outside when it's snowing. And I kind of forgot that my phone was in my pocket.
Ooh.
So it is permanently foobarred. I got my new phone, so that was one thing I got. So I was kind of not connecting up with most social media of late, but thankfully I got my new phone, so everything's really good. My cracker business is expanding. I heard you got some crackers in.
I did, and they are absolutely amazing. Seriously, I love them. The Dragon Breath was a bit too strong for Martin,
Oh,
which that was great because I was able to eat them all. And since
okay.
I do like spicy food, it was perfect. But my goodness, the garlic and thyme. Oh.
Yeah, so when I started with these crackers, I was just like, I'm going to do black pepper, and I'm going to avoid doing the crackers that other flavor. Like there's another cracker company that's not gluten free near where I live, and they do a chili and a garlic, and I was just like, and they do an onion. So I'm like, I'm not going to do those three flavors. I'm going to do something else. So I did black pepper and cumin and rosemary,
Mhm.
and then last November, I decided to finally introduce a garlic one. And it has exploded, by far the most popular flavor. I'm like, I really need to just give people what they want. I need to stop.
It's unbelievable. It's so delicious. It's such a shame that it ran out so quickly.
Yeah, it was annoying because I sent that to you as a gift. It's too bad you got dinged for VAT. That
it,
sucks.
it always happens. The moment that you put any kind of value on anything, they will just, even if you mark it as gift, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They will charge you for it. And the problem is that they don't charge you just for what you put as the value, but added the price of the shipping. So if you send me something that costs $50 and the shipping is $20, I have to pay tax on $70.
And that's the thing that got me, because I'm thinking you paid as much for VAT as I would if I had charged you for the bags, because
Yes.
those bags themselves wouldn't. So that's It's I'll just lie instead of $2 a pop and next time.
No price. Yes, it's
Or not
as a
list the
gift. Or commercial sample with no value. That's it. Done.
commercial sample. There you go. I will do that in the future. But I know black pepper and the garlic have been most popular. Then it's the dragon's breath, rosemary, and the cumin. The red-headed stepchild is last.
Well, so far I can tell you that they've all been, for me at least, very good hits. But Martin tried the garlic and the rosemary ones, and
Mhm.
He cannot get enough of them. Seriously,
You
they
were
are
fighting.
absolutely delicious. Really
We're thinking of
delicious.
doing an onion and chive for next year
Wow.
or for this year. So, and they're nerd themed tavern snaps. So we'll see. Hopefully, we'll get them. We'll start working off Canada, and once we're across Canada, then we'll start up with the United States. And when we're in the United States, then we'll work on Europe.
United States, considering what's going to happen on Monday.
Well, I don't care what my customers are as long as they pay. I mean, yes, all those people are going to be very, very poor in about
exactly. That's why I meant, who's going to be able to buy those things.
But on happier news, like I said, it was a very, very good Christmas. A lot of games were played. I did not receive any games as gifts.
I did,
mind you. What did you catch?
Well, I think I want to talk about that one, but in a little bit. Before, though, and just for a couple of minutes, no longer than that, I would like to know what games are you looking forward for 2025?
Oh, geez.
Because I can tell you a couple that I am really excited about.
Which ones are those?
Well, firstly, the Alien Second Edition.
Oh, okay.
I am really gagging for that to come out. It should be absolutely unbelievable, and I cannot wait. I am also looking forward to see what Modiphius does with the Discworld role-playing game, because that's going to be very interesting. And I want to know also what the 13th Age is going to be like.
Mass Effect for me, if their role-playing game comes out this year, I'll be very interested in that. We were talking about the fact about the board game, which is out now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a game I definitely want to play. But the RPG is something that's going to be high on my list as well. I don't know if I'll have the situation to play it. There's a board game called Wine Cellar coming out this year. I'm a big wine nut, so a game called Wine Cellar, I'm immediately going to be interested in. I'm hoping I'll get a chance to see it. 25th Century Games. Vincent Dutrait is the artist. Andrew Stiles is the designer. I don't know if there's an exact date when it's coming out, but it's expected for 2025. So I'm looking forward to that, and maybe Speakeasy, the latest of Tale Lacerdo game, which means it's automatically incredibly expensive and massive in scope. It looks like a gigantic game.
He doesn't make small games, doesn't he? He just can't.
He doesn't. He doesn't. And the last thing I would mention, and I don't think it's actually coming out anymore, is that there was a company that was working on a role-playing game based around Ghost in the Shell, and it was supposed to come out in 2024, and it didn't. Not only that, but it's no longer listed on their website. So I'm worried that project has died, which means, like I said, that if I could ever get any IP, I was talking to someone recently about this, when someone was saying how hard it is to get IPs. It's very hard to get an IP. I commented the fact that I reached out to EA to see about securing the franchise rights to some of their smaller properties or lesser known properties, and they flatly said no. So which means like I would love to talk to Chris about how he got Mass Effect in the first place, considering how like the only way some of these games get made is that you have to approach them with a name that somebody knows. Like you can be $1 million company, but if the company doesn't know who you are and you don't have a reputation, they're not going to be as interested in dealing with you. So there's a part of me that's just like, I just want to approach Modiphius. It's like, let me do a Ghost in the Shell game. I know this guy had the rights to it, but he's clearly not doing anything with it. Yeah, if I would definitely like to see the Mass Effect game.
Well, I can tell you that I have already seen it, at least the board game.
Yeah,
because that's the game I got for Christmas. My God, it's so good.
What
it is so good?
What is it?
Okay.
It is okay. Tell me. Yeah,
it's the video game turned into a board game. That's it.
What aspect of it? It
all
seems
of
like it would be. Yeah. Okay.
All of it. So, okay. Being a little bit more serious, this is a cooperative game for up to 4 players. And the gist of it is that the Hagalaz is this ship that's crashed on a planet, and all the adventures or the missions are around it. So Shepard has been entasked with going to rescue the Hagalaz. That's a priority. Firstly, the game comes with minis of all the main characters from the original game. So Tali is there, Rex is there, and you have two versions. You have he part and she part, which they are lovely minis, absolutely lovely. So you have a kind of a mission map where you start between mission 1A, 1B, and 1C. And then there is a branch that will take you to missions to A, to B, and to C. But obviously, if you do 1A, you won't be able to do 2C. So you have to choose very carefully. And each one of the original missions is going to have a different approach. So one of them is going to be more strategic, the other one is going to be more in your face, so on and so forth. And between main missions, you can do character missions, just like in the video game. You know how you could do missions for Rex to rescue, I think it was her niece or something like that. You can do some of those as well, and they will mean that the characters will be more receptive toward you. You can play the game as Paragon or Renegade, just like in the video game.
Oh, wow.
You are going to be facing lots of turrets, just like in the video game. And the Reapers are there all over the place, spawning all over the place, just like in the video game. There are bionic powers, like in the video game. Your character begins being very weak, and then you unlock more features as you kill your enemies, just like in the video game. But also, they have balanced very well the cooperative aspects of Mass Effect. For example, the way that they've managed to complement the bionics and the inherent qualities of the characters. Rex has this inherent ability to being angry. So you can collect anger points. And at some point, you can, as your natural action, you can, well, Rex can go angry and just charge against a number of enemies, and it will inflict as many points as anger points he's managed to gather. So that's one very cool thing. If you put that together with the fact that you have a bionic ability that another character can use to push enemies toward a single or specific space, you can help to gather as many enemies as possible in one place on the terrain, and then unleash Rex with all its anger and get rid of 5 enemies in one go.
Wow.
So that sort of thing, they've done it very well. Also, every character can get up to 3 experience points per mission. So there's no point in Rex killing everything, because then Rex will be able to level up, but the rest of the characters will not. And you need to level up because the characters at the beginning are very, very weak. So you must be able to level up. And the mechanics are very simple. You're going to draft a pool of dice. So the first character is going to roll all the dice and choose 3. The second character will roll the remaining dice and choose 3. The third character will do the same, and the fourth character will keep that 3 remaining dice. So, and then the first player token will go from one player to the other, so everybody will get a fair chance. Once you have allocated all your dice, then you choose who's going to go when and what do you want to do. Are you going to move, double move, do a standard action, do a special action? That's it. Each action is going to require a number of dice, and those dice, for example, to shoot with your gun, you may need just 2 standard actions. But if you want to shoot with a sniper, you may need 1 standard action and 1 special action die. You do whatever you have to do, and then you release a card that will tell you how the enemies are going to react. So on and so forth. That's it. That's mechanically, that is it. But they've managed to do it very well with the terrain. You have a second book apart from the rule book, of course, you have a second book with the mission conditions on the left page and the mission terrain on the right page. Each mission is going to have its number of evil characters, its winning conditions, its failing conditions, how to win with Paragon, how to lose or how to win with being a renegade, what are the special rules that apply to that specific mission. All of that is explained and always in front of you.
Right.
Which is really, really cool. We failed so miserably the first mission. So badly. It was like, Jesus.
Was it
Christ.
So the question I'm going to ask you, and to intervene, saying you failed very badly, was that on account of you not understanding the objective of the rules, or is it just the random number generator killed you?
It was just a matter of us not understanding the tactical aspect of the game.
Okay.
You cannot just charge against the Reapers and expect that you're going to survive when you are on level 1. Mm-hmm. It's like in the video game. In the video game, if you just begin and all you have is your Omni tool that you're just going to keep bashing Reapers with, or guns that are going to be at close range, you're going to die. You're going to die very quickly. You need to learn to take cover. You need to learn when to tell your squad mates when to go where and think tactically. Not as much as a chess game, but you have to think tactically. And this game exploits that incredibly well. So that's why we had our asses handed. But just like in the video game, you can choose to either continue and, not knowing how well you're going to do in the future, or you can create new characters and begin again. Which is exactly what I'm going to do next Wednesday when my friends come back.
Nice.
So we have absolutely loved the game. Reading the rules was daunting because it feels like there are so many things that you have to do.
I can imagine.
But it's one of those games that as soon as you begin to play it, everything falls into place. Everything. We only had to refer to the rules to check on the meaning of a couple of icons.
Right.
But everything else is there. Is just there. And now I'm looking forward to printing a few Reaper minis that I can use, and I would be done. It's seriously, if anybody liked the Mass Effect, the original trilogy video game, you have to try this as a conversion from a video game to a board game. It's absolutely fantastic. We've loved it. Really loved it. And the production value is great.
Yeah, I can. Oh, yeah. Well, from what I saw, the production value looks quite fantastic. So it definitely looks good. Yeah, that's gonna be on my list. I have not had a lot of games. I mentioned it at the beginning that that's the game I'm looking forward to play, both the board game and the role playing game. I have a funny feeling if I got both, it would be easier to get the board game playing. But there's a part of me. Just as someone who knows the franchise a lot, I think I'd have a lot of fun with role-playing aspects of it. As a GM, just to see how people interact, especially, what I want to see, when the role-playing game comes out, I will pay anything to get my friend Mark Muir to run a game. It would be really interesting. I think the best part of it would be if someone ran a game. If I ran a game and Mark Muir played Commander Shepard, I think my brain would fucking explode.
That would be incredible.
Would it be interesting to grab a bunch of the cast and just do a game when they were playing their characters? I mean, that's a given. That has to happen.
That would be absolutely incredible. And if Chris hasn't thought of it yet, I mean, he needs to take more medication because it's such a. It has to be. It's wow.
Well, like I said, the funny thing is that I think it's still possible for me because I want to get Chris back on the program, but I also probably can get Mark Muir on here as well, just because we're friends and we talked, and he provided me, he allowed me to use his character for my October's Arcane Almanac, which came out last month. Did quite well. We Excellent. Did a pretty good first month. It's 7 magic systems. I was just going to reprint the ones that I've created, then I added in. Was it 2 more? Mm-hmm. One that's where when you cast spells, you're also doing kung fu. So your kung fu movements are also your somatic moves for casting spells. And then the second one is a gun, a shooting one, where as you're shooting, you're developing magical powers, and after a certain point of shooting, you get to cast a spell. So those are the two additional spellcasters on top of the 5 I already had, and then we used Mark's face and his character he's created, October, which is a warlock, and so we created this persona that this book is a compilation of this wizard's travels through a multiverse, finding other magic systems. So Mark helped write an introduction for it, and then he allowed me to use his face and that character's name. So it was originally going to be called the Arcane Almanac. Now it's October's Arcane Almanac, so that's really nice. So yeah, Mark is a great guy. He also does a voice for a character for an audiobook that I have been struggling to get made for the last 3 years. So hopefully we'll get it done. But yeah, that sounds like a great game.
It really is very, very good. I did mention in Facebook that we were having a great time, and Eric Lang, who is the co-designer, he was over the moon with the fact that we were enjoying it, because they have they've really done a labor of love with it. They're obviously so much into Mass Effect that they really know the ethos and the game inside out. It's been fantastic, really fantastic. So very highly recommended. Exactly. So how about you? What have you been playing?
Well, so this, as I said, we were talking about the fact that we got together with a lot of families. We all got to play some games, but when you're dealing with groups of 8 or 9 or 10 people, it ended up being mostly party games, mostly adult party games. What ended up being 3 games we played. And it's interesting the fact that if someone were to ask me, what is the best party game ever made? The answer is quite simply, it's Telestrations, which is not a game per se. It's more of an experience, but it is the most enjoyable thing that I think a group of people can do together without, and the funny thing is, we still talk about the rounds of Telestration we've had from years ago. We have photos of some of our illustrations that got us all on the ground rolling, laughing our asses off. These games are not that. So very often, a lot of these are chasing the Cards Against Humanity success. So they're all trying to be that in some way. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm pretty sure I've spoken about Trial by Trolley before. Mm-hmm. It is based on the trolley dilemma. You are a conductor. You can take the train going one direction or the other. And there's somebody on each of the tracks, and you have to decide who you want to kill. So that's the judge. And so once again, like a judge mechanic, it shifts. But because there's only 2 tracks, you can't create a situation. So it's a team game where the teams are shifting constantly as you rotate the judge. And you have to lay down cards that tell you what's on the other person's track. And then you have to lay down modifiers and additional things. And you're trying to get the judge to kill the other team. And the person with the fewest amounts of kills by the end of the game wins. There is also a section of the game where you have to make the case. You have to kind of try to convince the judge why you should spare your side and kill the other side. And some of them they get very humorous, they get funny. As you add these modifiers and put other things on the card, you get to put like 2 cards on each side and then a modifier. I did not like this game the first time I played it. Mm-hmm. I played it again. I still don't like this game. It comes down to a problem, and that is, if you lay down these, people say the best part of the game are the players making the case, trying to convince, going, no, you want to kill this guy because this person's how you want to, and you end up making these cases. But I've noticed now, after playing this game several times and then reading people's reviews, that stage of the game is completely worthless, because there's no way a person's going to convince the judge based on their initial biases based on the cards. So you could put a puppy on one side, and if the person's an animal lover, there is nothing you could say that's going to convince them to not kill, to not spare the puppy. They're going to spare the puppy. So even if you have a really good case for the other side, there's nothing you can do. The person's biases will always come through. So and nothing is more frustrating and triggering for a lot of people in the game than to make a fantastic argument and have the person listen to everything you're saying and then saying, I don't care, I'm not killing the puppy. And that's always been what most people have said in the reviews, have said their biggest problem with the game, that no matter what you say, a person was always going to go with their initial biases. My thought is, if we end up playing this game again, to eliminate that phase entirely and just have it be the cards. And the downside for me is the other issue, which is the reason why Cards Against Humanity works, is that it's anonymous. With this game, the person who's the judge can actively see, if I choose this turn, if I choose this, then this person doesn't get any skull tokens, and that person's going to win the game. So at that point, like, the reason why I lost the game the first time wasn't because I had a bad argument about card. The judge simply said, I'm picking you to die because if you don't get any skulls this round, you're going to win the game. If I do that, then I win the game. So the person literally chose based on the fact that if they didn't choose, the other person was going to win the game. And so there's no way around that. There's going to be a bias of, I have to look at the score people's have. So there's one way of doing that, and that is conceal your tokens and assume the other person doesn't know. That's one way of doing it. The second thing is whether or not there is a way to inject an anonymous component in the game. Right? Where you have two sides and you don't know who's who. Where the GM puts us, where the judge steps away, the players lay down their cards, and then the person rotates around and then has to choose which path to go on and doesn't know which side has it each. That could work, but some people have said that they've tried it and the game gets really boring as a result because it's not as interesting as Cards Against Humanity, which is much faster and much more interesting. So that's an issue. As it stands right now on Board Game Geek, it goes by a 6.1, which is I think not a bad score for a party game. Most party games don't rate very highly. And we have the Kickstarter edition, so this box is very heavy. I'm willing to give it another chance with those modifications and to see how it is. But as the game stands on its own, I don't care for it. Next up is this game.
Sweets and Spicy. This
is a very lame, very simplistic version of another mechanic. It presents itself as hot sauce. It would be better if hot sauce was included. You get this die, and the die says sweet, medium, and spicy. You roll the die. You have 3 decks. You grab the card from the die roll. Let's say it's spicy. And in there is a question. And in that question, it is going to be a 1 or 2 or a yes or no answer. And that is basically determined by these voting cards.
Okay.
So each person lays down, so the judge asks the question, and the question refers to them. What do you think my answer is going to be? Everyone lays their card down, and then you reveal your answer, and whatever's facing forward. And then people get points how right they are. So it's about whether or not you know somebody or not. I'll give you an example here, looking at some of the spicy cards. Do you believe once a cheater, always a cheater? Would you be willing to write a tell-all book about your sex life if you knew it would be a bestseller? Would you trade an inch off of your height to add or remove 2 inches to any other part of your body? So some of these answers are also obvious, as you might tell. As a result, but here's the only issue with the game. If you're going to have a group of adults, the spicy deck is the only one that's actually interesting. If you roll sweet, the group generally goes, "Oh, I don't want a sweet question. Those are soft. They're boring." The sweet questions are, would you rather be able to talk to animals or ghosts? Can a charitable donation in your name be a good gift? Choose your weapon: your ancestor's magic sword or an F-16 fighter jet. And although some of these are interesting, if you're in a group of people in an adult environment, it's eventually, after we played this game for a bit, we eventually just stuck with just spicy. We stopped rolling because the game was just more interesting as a spicy variation. So I understand the idea of the game was the fact that they wanted to have this kind of hot sauce mechanic, sweet and spicy, and then have that. But I would create a situation where they were all spicy and some were way spicier than others. Because even the spicy stuff is pretty tame. In the realm of hot sauces, Everything is tame, and this is effectively sriracha. There is no super spicy cards there, and that's, I think, a wasted opportunity. If they wanted to make this an actual mature adult game, this would be medium and or even mild, and then there would be even spicier cards out there, because, like, as a result, some of these cards are value. Like I would say, for example, you know, would you rather have more or less sexual experience than your partner? That's not that's not really that spicy. That's not really that
No.
spicy. It's pretty minor in my, is makeup sex worth the fight? Like it's like stuff like that, which is, I wouldn't call them spicy. They're more medium, and I think there is an argument to be made that there is a better version of this game where you do that. Now, it should be noted, this is something I found hilarious. We played this game four times on one night, and I won 3 of them, just because I think I know people very well.
Yeah.
The last game I'm going to talk about. So anyway, so luckily these are nice and quick. The last game, what's the average review for? So Sweet and Spicy Truth gets a 6.7. So oddly enough, it rates higher than Trial by Trolley, which I thought was very interesting. But that being said, it doesn't have as many reviews. That brings up a game I do not have with me at the moment, which is Drunk, Stoned, or Stupid.
Okay.
So this is a game that doesn't really work. It's another adult party game. It Drunk, Stoned, or Stupid, the actual name doesn't apply. Basically, the somebody pulls a card out. These cards have questions. Let's see if I can find some examples here that are, oddly enough, not in German. These are all in German. This is so very interesting. This game obviously originated in Germany. Okay, here's some of the examples. Who is most likely? So the person pulls a card and reads it out. And these are what some of the cards say. Wakes up with half a burrito in bed. Has a 3-hour conversation about space. Spends all day interpreting a text. So these are some of the cards. And then the community tries to will then vote who that card belongs to. Now, right off the bat, there's no rules for the judge. So the judge themselves isn't making the assessment. So now, ultimately, I guess the person who draws the card decides who gets it. But at that point, if everyone says, "Oh, this goes to this person," then the judge doesn't really have much of a say. They can say it's going to go to this person, but it says that the group decides who gets the card. So the judge is the person who draws the card. Even though we shift the deck around, the person is just, all they're doing is reading out a card. Like there's no real choice in the matter. And on top of that, the game recommends playing it with strangers, which makes no sense because then you don't know who everybody is, right? So you can't have any biting satire, right? First, it says in the game, each card is drawn and the group decides who in the group should be tagged with the card. So once again, there's no judge. So the person who draws the card. So you could have the deck in the center and just have the same person draw the card. And then everyone decides who gets that card. That's the whole game. That's how simplistic this is. There's no mechanic. You just draw cards and you decide who gets it.
I'm going to say something really horrible. It sounds like the sort of bullshit game that you would play in a team building exercise at work.
Yeah, that's actually a wonderful analogy. It runs at a 4.3, which is an incredibly low rating, for rightly so. And the other thing is that it tells you in a disclaimer I think the reason why they say it's better with strangers, because they know how the game could run if you're friends with everybody and everyone's assigning pretty bad traits to people. Now, that being said, for us, about 30-40% of our cards that we were giving out to people, though someone's saying, yeah, give that to me. That's totally who I am. So that wasn't that much of an issue. But I could see there was a few times where people were getting a little frustrated. Like my sister would get defensive anytime someone would give her a card. My wife would be like, oh, I guess so. My brother, who accrued the most number of cards. Now, it should be noted, they say the game has no winners, only losers. And so the person with the most cards is the biggest loser. My brother got 22 cards after several hours of playing, My wife was second place with 21. I was down to 10. My sister had only about 8 or 10 or so. But some of the negative reviews, a lot of the common points was this game is actively damaging to interpersonal relationships. One person said I played twice a few years ago, and both times most players walked away from the game with hurt feelings. Do not play. And I could totally understand, even though this did not happen in our sitting playing this game for 3 hours, I can totally see how this game could be mean-spirited, more mean-spiriting than any other party game that I think I've seen. It's a surprisingly vindictive game that seems that, as you said, seems to be just a team-building exercise and not much of an actual game. So
more like a team destroying exercise by the sound of it.
Yeah, so those are 3 party games, none of which I can terribly recommend. Trial by Trial, I think, needs heavy homebrew. I think Sweet and Spicy needs to be spice and spicier to make it an actual fun game.
Drugstone is... Sorry, can I ask you, who's the Sweet and Spicy designer? What nationality?
Okay, so I'll say that Drugstone is Stupid is done by, it's self-published by Cojones DSS Games and Reflex Shop. It's got no, apparently its original name was Who's Most Likely To, which makes a lot more sense than Drunk, Stoned, or Stupid. I think Who's Most Likely To tells you exactly what the game is about. Sweet and Spicy, which also Sweet and Spicy is definitely not a game about cars and cats. So let's get that out of the way. I saw that. I was like, that's not a. I mean, there's a part of me. Yeah, so that's a game I want to play. Sweet versus Spicy. There's also a Spicy versus Sweet and Spicy. So strange. I think. Oh yeah, the Sweet and Spicy Truth game. That's why you have to add. You have to add the truth in to get the right game. Otherwise, Sweet and Spicy, you're going to have a lot of other variations. I know it's published by Bicycle, which is not a really well-known game company. And the designer is David L. Hall. And this is his only credit on Board Game Geek. So like I said, there isn't much of a game here. But technically, it is the highest rated of the 3 games we talked about.
I just wonder, and I'm going to say something again, very horrible. That's just me. Sorry about that. If this is kind of done for American sensibilities, where they think that asking, would you rather have more knowledge in sex than your partner, it would be a risque sort of question. Where if you ask that in France, it would be like, fuck yeah, what are you talking about? I mean, why is that even something to ask? Of course.
Yeah, and once again, I think that the Sweet and Spicy Truth game, I think that if anyone else published it, they would have pushed it a lot harder. I have this funny thing that outside of Cards Against Humanity, most games that try to say that they are risque and adult orientated are like, this is not adult, this is barely PG. And I'd go so far as to say that there is even a Telestrations Dark version. There's an adult version of Telestrations. And I have played that once or twice, and the consensus was it's not any better game, because you can have the most simplistic things in Telestrations and have the most rude and funny things happening. You don't need adult-themed clues in Telestrations to make the game any funnier. So I think it's hilariously ironic that Telestrations Dark is not a better game than just basic Telestrations for adults playing. So if someone says, oh, if I want to get an adult party game, should I get Telestrations Dark? I go, you don't have to. If you have Telestrations, just play that. It's going to be more than enough fun for you.
Fair enough, indeed. So what are your plans for this coming year? Because we've been going for 38 minutes, but we haven't really spoken about our plans for 2025. What are you going to do? Where are you at with your Kickstarters?
Well, like I said, my primary, I have a couple. I should tell you something else that I got. I have a couple of New Year's resolutions. One of them is to get into shape, as we've talked about it, and the shape that I've chosen is a triangle. But beyond that, is that the other thing I got a lot of gift cards, but one of the gift cards I got was for a sensory deprivation tank experience.
Oh, awesome.
I have never done one of these before. It'd be really interesting to see someone with autism and ADHD going into this with an overactive imagination. I haven't booked my time yet, but hopefully it will be quite soon. My guess is probably by the end of the month, I will be booking my time.
I had a friend who used to do them, and she said that immediately she went into a tank, she would go to the astral plane. It would feel like being completely in the void.
Did she
And
turn into a gorilla?
she did, I don't know what she did whilst she was there. I never asked. But I thought that it was a very interesting description as to how she felt, that she went astral and just able to wander and go anywhere she wanted in her mind.
I'm hoping to go full Akira. Now, for those people who don't know the two jokes I just dropped, it shows you how old you are or where you were born. Um, there's a movie with William Hurt
Hmm.
came out in 1982 called Altered States, and it has to do with a scientist. It is a very famous, very well-known horror movie. It is very, very disturbing. It deals with a group of scientists led by William Hurt, who finds a supremely rare and powerful psychoactive hallucinogen drug in South America. He's already been doing experiments with sensory deprivation, but he basically wants to combine this drug while in the sensory deprivation and to see what happens. And so that's what's called altered states of consciousness. What ends up happening is he ends up tapping into other planes of existence and other altered states to a point. At one point, he turns into a gorilla, and then at one point, he turns into basically a life form of pure energy. And then, for those people some people may know the references to Akira. I mentioned Akira, and someone says, "What does Akira have to do with sense of deprivation?" The ending of Akira, the writer directly admitted the ending of Akira was taken from Altered States, to give you an idea how Altered States ends. It's not as incredibly epic as Akira. Akira takes it to the nth anime level degree. If someone wants another reference, the very famous music video, Take On Me by Aha, is a direct ripoff from the ending of Altered State. But suffice to say, when I make a joke about I'm going to go into the sensory deprivation tank and turn into a gorilla, that I'm making a joke about the movie Altered States. So I have that. My plans are, however, I do want to get into some more board games and so forth. Right now, when it comes to Kickstarters, I'm going to leave it with my fans to decide. I have 3 possible futures. One, I liked the idea last year. I put out a art book RPG hybrid called Threshold, and I want to be able to do that some more with other projects. I have one that's part of my Kickstarter from 2 years ago called the Retroverse, and I want to turn that into a art book hybrid. But I can't do that with the budget of the original project. So I'm asking my fans, do you want me to put out the book as it was originally conceived, or can I put it on Kickstarter and see about trying to make it the much bigger project that I was hoping it was? Now, I've done that before. With my ultra modern Kickstarter back in 2018, we unlocked the development of Affinity. But I realized that Affinity could be a much larger project. I wanted to write a novel. I wanted the books to be about 200 pages instead of 100 pages. I wanted to have full color artwork instead of just a handful of black and white stuff. So I asked my fans, can I put it on Kickstarter? Anyone who already got this as a reward, you're still going to get it. You don't have to back anything more. But I was curious whether I should. Everyone's overwhelming enthusiasm was like, yeah, throw it up on Kickstarter. And with a lot of people saying, I'm willing to pay extra to see about getting a much better version of this. And it was a little bit of a confusing setup. I had to create 2 tiers, one for people who were upgrading their black and white to the color version and people who were buying the color version outright. And I had to go in, I had to stop people, I had to correct people, I had to decline certain pledges going, look, I have a list of people who are getting these rewards. You have to be on those lists for this pledge. It was a bit of annoying, but I also raised more money with that campaign than any other campaign I've ever raised. I raised about $124,000. So I am willing to go through that again for people and saying, like, this is an attempt to create an actual art book that's inspired by stuff like Tales from the Loop and The Electric State, which I saw your review. I saw your video and your review. I am more angry now about this film coming out because that book looks so fucking good.
It's amazing. And I am reading the adventure that comes in the book right now.
Yeah.
And I love the concept of the traveling, the journey being what truly makes the story. The first the first book I published in Spain is a small role-playing game called Home. And in that game, you are a bunch of soldiers who have lost the war, and the beginning of the game is the very end of the last battle where you lost the war, and you have to go home. And what are you going to find once you return is the unknown.
That's fantastic.
So the whole thing is about the journey, and that's what makes it. And they have taken, Freely has taken that concept and turned it into something dark with a massive, massive twist of psychological horror thrown into it. In Apocalypse, it's a post-apocalyptic environment that is still in the middle of decaying.
Yeah, it's still collapsing actively.
Yes, correct. So I'm really, really loving it.
There's a YouTube page called Curious Archive. Fantastic channel. It just hit 1 million subscribers. I jumped on board like 500,000 subscribers ago. He has some wonderful retrospective videos, and he talks about Tales in the Loop and Electric State. He did the Electric State way before the RPG or the movie got announced. I definitely recommend. I fell in love with the contents page when you showed me, and I was just like, oh, I've got to do my next contents page like that. I love the way they presented it. I love the idea of spreading the contents page over several pages and giving you like a really artistic presentation that way. That game looks friggin' amazing. And that looks I wish the movie was like that.
I really am hoping that it's not going to be like the trailer. I really hope that the trailer, they've just shown the few jokes that the film is going to have just to attract people, because if they make it a light-hearted film, it will be such a waste. Such a horrible, horrible waste. So we'll see. I will do a full massive review on the game when I finish, because it's a game that it has surprised me quite a lot. Excuse me a second. Because I thought it was going to be, just a lighthearted thing. And I really, really is not. So I'm looking forward to talking more about hope and bliss and how to recover it and how to lose them and what happens when you do that, because it's a really different take on sanity, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I'm going to let my backers decide whether or not they do that. If they do, then that will be the next Kickstarter. My plan is to do it in the late spring or summer. We'll decide once we get her going. I'm still waiting on this very expected to be very large bill from Studio 2 for the distribution of the last two projects, and I have a reprint of Affinity that I actually have to do, and there's been talk about whether or not I'm going to pop that up instead. So it's going to be either Affinity or Retroverse. One of those two would be next projects, and maybe both of them. We'll see. If I do an Affinity one, I could run that up pretty quickly. But basically, we're going to see what happens. I've been thinking of maybe doing Affinity in another platform. I was thinking of reaching out to GameFound and seeing like testing the waters, and then running the Retroverse on Kickstarter and seeing what happens there. So like I said, it's up in the air. We'll see what happens. But those are my kind of plans. Other than my personal plan to play more games, is to play a lot more games. Hopefully, we're getting a game group together again, so it won't just be my wife and I playing.
That sounds pretty good to me. It sounds very, very worthy indeed. Near Year's resolutions.
Yeah.
Good. Sorry.
I have one more thing. Do you have something else to share?
No, I'm done.
So this was something I thought was hilarious. This is a Game Master styles, and so people basically have to. These styles are named after movie directors, and the joke is trying to find out which type of Game Master you are based off of these styles, which are connected to directors. So I'll go over them really quickly. So the Christopher Nolan Game Master style. Here are the points of a Christopher Nolan Game Master style. Plot is king. Will fuck you up if you try to mess with it. Very in-depth lore and explanations. Can get confusing because there's a lot or it gets complicated. We'll do everything to get these very cool but very specific scenes. The next is Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson, aesthetic and mood before everything. carefully crafted playlists and mood boards, wacky NPCs, lots of storylines running all at once. The Wachowskis, best fights, queer themed, metaphors and allegories and symbolism everywhere, Dice Goblin, the lore is actually impossible to follow, voluntary suspension of disbelief is needed, heavy homebrew. Next up is Zack Snyder, Rule of Cool, player characters are overpowered, gives away magical items too easily, retcon galore. Don't worry, guys, it'll make sense eventually. Most epic campaigns with over-the-top stakes. The James Cameron style of Game Masters. Huge set pieces with the most expensive minis, deep lore, but only them remembers it. Tries to have something for everyone in there. Either only knows 5e or homebrews everything from scratch. The James Gunn approach. The whole campaign is basically an elaborate shitpost. Somehow everything makes sense. You got Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's grenades, Chekhov's nuclear warheads, will accept any backstory, and doesn't hesitate to kill NPCs or PCs. The Tim Burton style of role-playing either runs exclusively Call of Cthulhu or all of their campaigns pretty much turn into it. Dying is the most joyful fate that can await your character, will fuck you up, and will commonly do creepy voices. This leads us to the Guillermo del Toro.
I'm Tim Burton.
There you have the Guillermo del Toro. Cares more about enemy monsters than about the PCs. Their current obsession always heavily influences their campaign. Looks like a cinnamon roll, will definitely murder everyone in the game, and then changes the game system every campaign. And then finally we have the Tarantino, best at improv, barely hidden fetishes. Plot can go anywhere at any moment. If there's not at least one PC dead, what's the point? And is sassy as fuck. So that I saw that and I thought this was perfect. And I was trying to figure out, so you believe you are Tim Burton style. I will say, I am a little bit of Tarantino because I'm really good at improv. But I have to say, I am a Christopher Nolan director. Again, game master. I'm a game master that's very similar to that. I have to admit, I guess I think there's a little bit of James Cameron, but if you get to pick one, I guess it would be Christopher Nolan. I'm heavily plotted. I have very specific scenes. I do let players have their own improv. So it's if there was a combination between those two of them, but I guess if I had to skewer, I would be a Christopher Nolan game master. So you're a Tim Burton. I'm a Christopher Nolan. I invite people who listen to this to post their own opinions on who they are. Which are they? Are they Nolan? Are they Wes Anderson? Are they Wachowski, Zack Snyder, James Cameron, James Gunn, Tim Burton, Guillermo del Toro, or Tarantino?
Good question indeed. We will find out. And as far as I'm concerned, that's me. I don't have anything else for today.
That was good for me. That was a good run.
Perfect. In that case, humans, we look forward to seeing and hearing what director gamer are you. It's a really fun game. I really have enjoyed that. We would also love to hear from you. So podcast@gmsmagazine.com. Our email is always open, and trust me, it will eventually be answered. So say hello. Meanwhile, find me on Blue Sky, where I'm trying to be a little bit more active, on Facebook, where I am active, even though that platform is going to go to shit within the next 3 or 4 months. But never mind.
And at the time of the recording, it looks like Facebook's going that direction as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. You know, they've decided to go into let's go for total freedom of speech. What fucking could go wrong? Idiots. Complete and utter idiot, Zuckerberg. You are a fucking wanker. Sue me. And that's it. Blue Sky is a good platform. Facebook, I will still be there because why not? I don't have anywhere else to be. So until the next time.
This has been Chris with DSX Machina. Find me on DSX Machina on all social media channels except Twitter because that one's closed. Also on Tavern Snaps. I have Tavern Snaps on both TikTok, and DSX Machina is on TikTok as well, although I haven't posted as much there as I'd like. But that's me.
And we will talk to you again very, very soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.